This is Ringside Radio, your ringside ticket to some of the finest wrestling talk around. And now, here are your hosts, Grim Chorizo, Katrina Cena, and the Sloppy Joe!
Hello everybody, welcome to Ringside Radio. Grim Chorizo here, joined with Katrina Cena and Sloppy Joe. And it's been a little bit, but we are here for another episode of Ringside Radio.
Woo!
So, the topic I want to start off with is the new World Heavyweight Champion, Brock Lesnar. So...
No, it's Brock Lesnar.
That is right, it is...
The one behind the one in 21
Yep.
and one.
Yeah, lots of ones. So, first of all, what are your thoughts on that? I have a few questions about it, but, what are your thoughts on Lesnar being world champ?
I'm okay with it as long as he's there on a more regular basis than he has been. I think we all knew it was going to happen eventually. It was just a matter of time, so...
Yeah, it's kind of one of those things where do you go after you beat the streak?
Yeah.
You know?
Unless you don't come back.
Yeah, you just end it after that, but...
I'll go on record saying I don't like it. I don't like it at all. I think it's disrespectful to the business and the people who really pour themselves into the business and really care about the business. And I'm not going to hate on Lesnar for, doing it for the money, as people say, or whatever. If I could get that much money to work a handful of times a year,
yeah.
I don't know anybody who wouldn't do that. So I can't hate on him for that, but it frustrates me. So I don't like it, but I accept it because what else am I going to do?
Yeah.
So, and it doesn't matter who he who he beat for it, who lost to him, that truly doesn't matter. I just don't like that he's carrying the title because I know he's not going to be on consistently. I know he won't.
Yeah.
So, and he sure as heck won't be at house shows. No. And I do have a big problem with that because to me that should be a requirement. That should be expected of you as the champion.
Yeah.
So those are the points that frustrate me. But like you guys said, what are you going to do? He just beat the streak. So if he's going to stick around, he can't not carry the title. So I accept it and I'll move on with my life from there.
Yeah, I basically knew it was coming because regardless of who it was, whether it was Cena or Bryan, I was prepared for Lesnar to be the champ, and...
I miss him so much.
Yeah.
I miss Bryan.
I think we all do.
Yes.
Sorry.
Definitely. But I'm okay with it. It's only 2 weeks into the reign, however. And so I'm okay with him winning it, but that leads me to my next question is, how do you go about booking a title reign for someone who beat The Undertaker's streak? No one could do that before. Basically destroyed John Cena. No one has really done that before. How do you book that title reign? Honestly. I'm assuming he'll hold the title to WrestleMania. But how do you get there? He can't fight Cena every month,
How do you even get to Night of Champions at this point? Because
Yeah.
I'm already oh my... I'm with you.
It's like a legitimate...
It's just...
I have ideas,
Yeah,
and that's what I want to talk about, is if, say, he will fight every pay-per-view, or if your idea is that he doesn't fight every pay-per-view, which I would rather
really
do.
should,
Yes,
yeah.
but...
He should fight more than every pay-per-view,
Yes.
but that's not going to happen, so...
So what kind of challengers would you, throw his way?
Honestly, I think what they should, and we've talked about this before, I don't remember if it's on the podcast or not, but they should just have, every time he comes out, every time he cuts a promo or whatever, he just has issues in open challenges. He says no one can beat him. He's the best. And then they come out and he just destroys them every time, no matter who it is.
So
because clearly he
basically-
destroyed Cena, so it's going to be tougher.
So basically what you're saying is he shows up, and when he's there, he basically issues an open challenge, knowing there's no way anybody's going to beat me. I like that idea. I just don't see it happening.
No.
Because he'd have to be
Right.
there a lot. I would
Yes,
love that.
exactly.
I honestly would not mind nearly every week if he issued an open challenge and different people accepted it. Zack Ryder, R-Truth, all these people, because at this point, you're not going to look bad losing to Brock Lesnar.
No.
You're just getting the chance to
Well,
can't fight him.
if you're in the ring with Brock Lesnar at this point, you're way up there.
Yeah.
You know, you have achieved quite a level of superstardom, so to speak. If you're at the level of challenging Lesnar at this point.
Yeah.
So, I mean, the only one I can really think of is Roman Reigns, and we as a group on the side have kind of talked about, you know, leading up to WrestleMania, maybe having something involving Roman Reigns, but he's one of the only ones I can see because of his size, because of his, you know, his strength, and because of how the fans as a whole react to him.
Yeah.
Well,
You know, and that's somebody that they'll really get behind, because Lesnar does have a following. And they are gonna have to choose carefully who they put in the ring with him, because it has to be somebody that the people get behind.
Yeah, that they want to see win more
Right.
than Lesnar.
And that's where I would really love to see, like I don't know how this would happen, but, you know, if Bryan's ready to return in that amount of time, you know, returning him, you know, having him return that way. But you know, and I guess they have the basis that Bryan beat Cena.
Yeah.
You know, so that would give him credibility,
Yeah.
at least in that regard. Because, I mean, if you look at Bryan and then you look at Cena and then you look at Lesnar, it's, you know, just if you're basing things on size.
It's one of those things like, okay, if Cena can't do it, how the hell is Bryan?
That's exactly
Yeah.
right, because Lesnar is he's so freakishly powerful.
Yeah.
The only way I could see them building like Bryan as being able to beat him is just because he's such a good technical wrestler and he knows every hold there is.
Right,
Yeah.
and will he beat him? You know, if he were to return and go up against him, I don't think so. But he would definitely be a viable
And
Yeah.
he's
competitor.
definitely got the crowd on his side.
Oh yes.
That's one, because it's got to be. I think they're in this thing for the long haul. I don't know if they've decided who's going to do it, when it's going to, or they know when it's going to happen. I think it's WrestleMania, and
Right.
at this point, I mean it's going to be a long wait, but it'd be kind of pointless not to, you know. So here's what I think. I think it will be Roman Reigns who does it, but if the person I would like to see dethrone Brock Lesnar is Cesaro, because he's legitimately, the way he's been booked kind of lately he loses, he goes on a losing streak, but then he wins a few, and now he's the number one contender for the U.S. title. So I don't know, they're trying to savor something of him, and they obviously care about him, but he's so freaking strong.
And he's on every week.
And he has the little bit of relation to Paul Heyman, not so much anymore, but he still has it. And I think he could do it. And I think Cesaro, honestly, is more ready than Roman Reigns for a main event push. I'm not going to be upset if it's Roman Reigns. I mean, I just think Reigns needs something. He needs like a stepping stone, like an Intercontinental title or something to get him ready for that point.
Yep.
But as far as challengers to get there, I mean, he can't fight Cena, like I said, and he can't fight Reigns throughout there, you know? So I think one person who comes to mind who's big enough and could lose and it not be a big deal, he's gone right now, but Dean Ambrose. He's unstable, he's crazy. He might be the only person who's crazy enough to think about fighting Brock Lesnar. You know, putting all aside, like, he doesn't care what happens to his body.
Clearly.
Yeah, and he is over as hell.
Yeah.
He wouldn't beat him, but he could try twice and just get destroyed and keep coming back. Almost kind of like Cena, but it's not so much a never give up as just that he doesn't care.
I'm too insane
So
to care. Well, and the sad thing is, when you said Cesaro, I was like kicking myself. He's one of my favorite guys, but he wasn't even a thought because they haven't been.
He's so low.
The way they've been booking him makes no sense at all, because he was losing and he lost to he was eliminated by Heath Slater in the Battle Royal, and then he was losing and losing and losing, and now suddenly he's going up against Sheamus for the title. That makes no sense to me.
Yeah.
If they're going to make him a competitor, which I agree, I think that would be amazing, but they're going to have to build him up and not keep tearing him down.
Definitely.
Because that drives me insane.
Because honestly, looking back at SummerSlam, regardless of if it was a boring match or stupid, it's memorable.
Yeah.
It's definitely memorable.
Yeah,
and
everyone's going to remember
it's one of those things where, there was like one move involved, but that's why it's memorable, and that's why it's... You know, I think SummerSlam was one of the best pay-per-views of the year, and this whole year has had really good pay-per-views. But Night of Champions, they can't do that again. That's what makes it interesting is Cena's going to bring the fight this time. I really think it's going to be the match we were thinking SummerSlam was going to be. And I don't...
Well, and don't you think, and not to cut you off, but don't you think that is why they built everything else in SummerSlam so much? Because here comes the main event, and the fans, it's not going to live up to their expectations. No. It's going to be memorable, like we said, but it is not going to live up to their expectations.
That's why
because I think everyone, and we had, 10 to 12 people over watching, and I think everybody was disappointed, at least in one way or another. Yeah. You know, from our brand new fans to, you know, the ones of us who have, watched forever. I think everyone in one way or another was disappointed by it.
Yeah. Because we know what both those guys can do, and I was expecting something to, I don't know, just a better match. But I will say I'm not upset about it now because it told a story. It really did, and I think it just builds up more for their Night of Champions.
Well, and that's what it's going to do because now Cena has to develop.
We're going to get that intense, very brutal match that we were all wanting to see at SummerSlam. It's going to be a Night of Champions.
And, I mean, all that match did is it did two huge things. One, showed that Lesnar is, on another level, and that Cena will not give up.
Right.
You know? So it did a really good job of that. So I just wanted to, see what you guys thought, how they're going to do it. It's a mystery. It really is.
I'm
the only
curious.
challengers that come to mind are Reigns, Cesaro, and Ambrose. Because, Rollins is on the same... He's a heel, and... But, he has that briefcase, but he is not going to cash in on Lesnar.
It would make no sense if he cashed in. It would make no sense.
Seth is smart. That's what they built him up. He is freaking really smart. Why the hell would he cash in on a guy who could pick him up and break him? And, he's going to wait. Even if Lesnar were weak, I don't think he would try. Because he's like, okay, even if he's weak, even if I beat him, he's going to kill me afterwards or something,
Yeah.
He's going to wait for the right moment, and it's not going to be on Lesnar.
No. So Lesnar is a very unique presence in WWE. Now, there's almost like a reverence about, toward him because, I mean... Who beats the Streak?
Yeah. Exactly.
It kind of seems like he's almost like the new Undertaker.
It's weird.
It is. It's like
to me, he will never ever be even remotely close. That's my personal opinion. Ever. But yes.
Yeah. Regardless of if you like him or not, it's like they successfully put a superstar on a completely another level that there hasn't been like that.
And
forever.
people are still behind him.
Yeah.
There are so few people you could have put in that position to end the streak that wouldn't have completely destroyed their career.
Yeah.
And
it worked.
Yeah, it did.
And we're still here months later, and it has definitely worked.
Yeah.
I guess I'm just trying to enjoy it, because even though it's kind of weird not having a champion on who's every week and all this stuff, it's just like, this isn't something that's going to stick, and there's not always going to be a guy who is like, like in a video game, for example, like a final boss or something. You know what I mean? Like he's like literally like something else.
It's definitely going to be memorable when we look back, 10 years from now and think about, 2014. Oh yeah, that's when Lesnar won the title.
Yeah.
So, and whether I like him or not, and my feelings have been made pretty clear more than once. But whether I like it or not, it's going to be memorable.
Yeah.
And when the guy beats him, whoever it is, it just. You're ready to see
I will probably have a party and cry tears of joy no matter who it is.
It's going to be such a big win.
Yeah, they're going to be so over and be on such a new level.
Yeah. It'll be worth it.
Assuming that whoever that is ready for it. And I think with the right building, because they have to be built up enough to beat this guy.
Yeah.
They're going to have to work their magic.
Well, it's got to be. I mean, it's going to have to be. It's really going to have to be Reigns.
But my thing is, if they do that, they need to have Reigns feud with Cena. But Reigns and Cena are both super babyface.
It can happen though.
It can, but I don't know. It's just
I really think we might be not too far from Cena disappearing for a little bit though.
I think it's a much needed time off.
He deserves it.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, he does. You just can't. Want it. You can't get it through his head.
Yeah.
I think there's I think he's almost in as much denial as some of his fans who have followed him forever and ever.
Yeah.
Because I have this huge denial there. Cena will be wrestling until I die. He will never not be on TV, because I can't picture it. I can't picture that. There's just something about following someone's career passionately and caring so much about them for so long that it's hard to think about them someday not being there. And I think I really I really think Cena is in as much denial as some of his fans like myself are. That he can't picture not being there. He can't picture not being there. And if you don't like Cena, that's great. It's not, that's fine. Everybody has their opinion. But I don't think anybody can legitimately actually be serious and deny that he loves the E so much. Like, he can't, like, I don't think there's life for him outside of it. I really don't. And so I think he's kind of in denial, but he does need to take some time off. I don't want him to, obviously, as much as he doesn't want to, because it's really hard for me, even though there are other wrestlers I really love. It's just not the same for me when he's not there. And there probably are fans out there who feel the same way I do. Yeah. But I really think he needs to take some time off. He's definitely getting older. Yeah. And he's done this for so long, just tirelessly, always. And
when he does
there.
get injured and takes a break, he rushes back to get back,
right, because this is all he wants.
Yeah.
It's like it's
in the entire world.
Like, he doesn't know what to do when he's not traveling with doing that.
It's really incredible.
Yeah, it really is. Speaking of like a unique presence, there's not a lot of people. There's no one like Cena either, like in his desire.
Okay, this has to happen now, and you can edit this out if you want. But I gotta talk about Comic-Con.
Go for it.
So this past weekend, I guess I could say, I went to Comic-Con and met Cena, and this was my 8th time like meeting him. You're gonna go and you're gonna meet John Cena. This was my 8th time. I like had little experiences at live events and stuff, but actually going and meeting him, autograph, picture, whatever, this was number 8 for me. And it's just so cool. You said unique presence. There's nobody like Cena. It's really something special to watch him interact with fans, because it doesn't matter who you are. You can, like, there were definitely some characters. It's Comic-Con. So there's drunk ladies who are like 80 years old. I'm serious. It's a cluster. And it doesn't matter who you are. It doesn't matter what you look like. It doesn't matter how old you are. You have his undivided attention while you're there. It's crazy. Like, with kids, it's like he knows what to say. And, I've worked with kids forever, but even me, sometimes it's like, man, he's a natural at dealing with people. It doesn't matter who you are. You have his respect. You have his attention while you're up there. And I love to watch him interact with fans, because there's nobody like him. Yeah. I got to show him a really old picture of the two of us. It was taken July 24th, 2004. That was the first time I actually met him. And he was kind of robotically going through and personalizing everybody's picture and then signing his name to it, because that's what they told him to do. And they gave us a sticky note. They said, write your name on it. And I said, okay, can we write anything else? Can he write anything else to us? And they said, no, just your name. I'm like, okay. So I wrote my name on a little sticky, and I get up there and I showed him the picture on my phone, and I said, I understand I'm just a face in the crowd. I said, I completely understand that. I'll walk away and he's not going to have a damn clue who I am. Yeah. And that's okay. I'm okay with that, because he sees hundreds and hundreds of people every week. Maybe even every day. Yeah. And I said, but you've been my hero for a very long time. And I showed him and I said, this was taken 10 years ago. And the look on his face was just like humility mixed with like excitement and like just a realization that, oh my gosh, I make such a big difference to people. And he looked at me and he said, it feels really good to see a picture like this. And he put his hand over his heart and he said, I needed to see this picture. I needed to see this, he said. And I was like, wow. I said, so this is kind of our 10 years strong, because that was one of his things a couple years ago. Yeah. And he said, wow. And he started writing on my picture, and he wrote, and he wrote, and he wrote, and he wrote. And I'm going, oh my gosh. I said, I don't know what's happening right now. I can't read what he's writing because it's upside down, and I'm crying. And, this security chick's rubbernecking, and she's about to scream at me. I can tell. And then she figures out it's Cena that's taking so long. It's not me, And so I'm just... And I completely lost it. I'm just crying and crying because I don't know what he's writing, but it's spontaneous and it's from his heart.
Yeah.
Because he's told, write to so-and-so, John Cena. And then you shake their hand and you move on, you know, and you can have a little bit of a conversation. But so I knew everything he was going to write on there is from his heart, you know. And so it ended up saying, to Katrina, 10 years strong, thank you so much for all these years.
Wow.
And so it's just, it's so cool to know that made a difference to him.
Yeah.
Because he makes such a difference to me that I can't even describe it. But to see his face and to have him look at me and say, I needed to see this, you know, because everything he does and the way the fans treat him, and if you don't like him, that's fine, like I said, but they crap on him. And I think it's crazy how poorly they treat someone who does so much for the business.
Yeah.
And he says it doesn't bother him. He says everybody has their own opinion and stuff, but that's gotta bother him.
Yeah.
It's gotta get to him after a while. You know, and so that was just a great experience for me to be able to, you know that like made an impact on him. You know, does he remember it now? Probably not, because he had a lot to deal with and still has a lot to deal with every day. But that was just really special.
So one of the biggest things in wrestling is a superstar's finishing maneuver. So I'm curious, what's your favorite, of all the people on the roster right now, who's got your favorite finisher?
I really like Rollins' curb stomp, because it's one of those moves, when you see him do it, you're like, yeah, that's you're done after you get hit that.
Yeah.
It's just and there's just some moves you see like, okay, I don't really get how this is a finisher, but whatever.
Yeah.
But you see that one like, okay, this makes sense. This is clearly a finisher. This is gonna end the match.
It's literally a finisher. Like, you're done.
And it's something that's never really been done before. Like you have all those moves like the spear or the power bomb or the stunner or whatever. They've all been done numerous times by different people, but there's never been anyone else who has done the curb stomp.
I can't recall anyone. So and they built it up so well recently.
Well, and not just anybody could execute a move like that. You have to make it look right.
Yeah.
And, you know, so the caliber of athlete that Seth Rollins is certainly caters to him being able to execute a finisher like that and make it look very good.
Yeah.
How about the running Bodog?
Okay, so
that's a good one.
Here's the thing. What are your opinion? Do you like it? Do you like it as a finisher? Do you think
it's good for him?
Yeah, it's perfect for him.
So I agree.
If anyone else did it, I couldn't take them seriously.
I just wanted to hear your opinions because just for the majority of people online, they really don't like it.
Really?
Yeah, I personally really like it.
I think it's perfect.
Well, it couldn't, like you said, it couldn't work for anybody.
Yeah, I like it.
But I think it works for Bo.
Bo's the only one that it really works for.
I still would love to see him add a submission finisher just for the fact of like, don't tap out, you can do it. Don't
he's encouraging
trying
them
to make them believe.
Out,
I think that'd be great I don't know what, just something. One of my favorites right now, other than the curb stomp, since it's kind of universal that it's one of the coolest finishers right now. I really like Paige's Rampage.
Yeah.
I think it's like I haven't seen somebody do. I've seen a lot of variations of DDTs, but I haven't seen
that was pretty unique,
that before.
Yeah,
like a cradle DDT, because that moves to my next thing about finishers is some finishers are just weaker than others. You can tell.
Yeah.
And speaking of Paige, I like the move the Paige starter, but it's kind of weak compared to the Rampage or the PTO, you know? And so I hope she keeps doing it more of like a signature.
I know. She ended a match with it the other day.
Natalya,
and I like the fact that she kind of rotates between the three.
Yeah, I like how she's got three finishers.
Yeah, because you never know which one she's going to pull out. Like I think they.
And they're all very different.
Yeah, I honestly think they should stick with that.
Yeah. It's just the Rampage is the most devastating.
Well, yeah,
thing.
it's even a good one too because you can you can get those false finishes out of it. Like, oh, she just hit the rampage.
Yeah.
That's it. And then they kick out. And then she does the page turner.
Yeah.
And while we're speaking of finishers, there's just one that I just can't
Bring
get
it up.
behind.
Okay.
And I really like the guy, but I do not like the finisher. Cesaro's neutralizer.
Oh, okay.
Like, I get how it's devastating, but it just looks so awkward.
The
when
setup
he's
is
doing
really
it.
weird. Yeah.
And I don't know, I feel like there's just a better way to set it up and just a better finisher for him to personally do. Like,
Yeah.
to me, it doesn't really fit him.
You should just swing people into submission.
Like,
yeah.
I don't know, I associate it with him now just because that's
Yeah. he's
what his
used it for
finishes
so
has
long.
been since he's debuted.
Yeah.
But, I don't know, even back then I didn't like it. And like, the more and more I see it, the more and more I think
a
he
little
just
bit of
needs...
awkward hand placement there.
No, it's not even that. I mean, that's a big part of it, but I don't know. I just feel like there's some other move he could do that's more devastating to finish.
Yeah,
a match.
I honestly think he could end a match with the throwing uppercut,
yeah.
honestly,
Yeah.
just as easily.
Yeah, like I don't think it really fits him.
well, and
like, I
even,
can see
even the
Goldust
name
doing
of it. Yes, exactly.
Yeah.
But even the name of it doesn't.
Well, and
You know, like, they even call it the neutralizer. Like, shouldn't it be called the destroyer
Yeah,
or
just
something?
neutral.
It doesn't neutralize
yeah.
you.
Well, and I get why they did that because he's from Switzerland and they're supposed to be a big like neutral country.
Yeah.
So it makes
Okay.
sense.
Okay,
but,
I literally never thought of that.
Yeah, I didn't.
but for like a finisher name, you don't call a move the neutralizer.
Yeah.
It doesn't work.
It was just an observation.
Yeah.
Well, no, I agree though. It just doesn't work as the neutralizer. I never really thought of it that way before, but
Yeah.
Katrina's
Yeah,
right. It
good
doesn't make sense that it's called the
Yeah.
neutralizer.
So what about of all time?
Okay, well, I'm gonna think about this later, and I'm gonna be
Okay.
like, wait, no, I want to say this instead. Something better will come to me. But the tombstone,
Oh.
I really like, cause I don't know, it like commands your attention.
Yeah.
You know, it's like I don't know, it's really cool. And the other one I would say is the pedigree,
Oh yeah.
because it's just
awesome.
yeah, it is.
Which I have to
It
admit,
is.
Stephanie McMahon does a pretty damn
Yeah,
good
she-
pedigree.
She must have been practicing,
Yeah.
learning from Triple H, but yeah, the pedigree is awesome. Tombstone is one where right when he's got him up, the whole crowd just is on their feet, like ready for it. And that was a move that not very many people ever got out of. So when somebody did kicked out of it, it's like, wait, what?
The one that comes to mind for me would probably be the Stone Cold Stunner.
Yeah.
Just
Yeah.
because he literally did it to everybody. Whether he could have been like in a tag match with someone and they won and he shares a beer with them, then he stuns them just because he
just
did.
because.
And I just remember as a kid, like always like wrestling with friends or my
Yeah.
brother or whatever, I'd always want
the
to
one
do the
everybody
stunner.
wants to do,
Everyone
yeah.
wants to do the stunner.
Kick to the gut, doom, and
Yeah.
you can do it so
And,
easily.
and it's such an easy move to do that
Yeah.
I don't know. And plus just like the way he does it and the way that people sell
Yeah,
it.
they can sell it in so many different ways.
Yeah.
It's like,
Except for when Vince sells it, that's
yeah,
bad.
that was just his version of
That's
selling it. No.
Yeah, no.
Yeah.
But, I don't know. That's just like the first one. Like many of them come to mind, but that's the one that keeps coming to
Yeah.
my mind over and over and over again.
Yeah, because like you said, and he said on his podcast before, it's like best thing about it is you can do it to anybody. Like it doesn't matter how big they are.
Well, you don't have to pick them up.
Exactly,
You don't
it's
have
just
to
boom.
even set. You don't. There's not even a setup.
No, it's,
Really, except for the kick.
And
But you don't even really
But
need
even
to
then,
do.
right?
I gotta go with super kick, sweet chin music.
Yeah. I figured that's what
Always
you'd
been-
say.
Always been my favorite because. But the thing is, nowadays a lot of people just kind of use it as
Right,
a move, you know.
yep.
But when Sean did it, it was like the move.
It was an experience when he
The
did
only
it.
thing that blows my mind about Sweet Chin Music, which I love it too. You know, Sean and Bret Hart are the reason I watch wrestling today.
Mm-hmm.
They're the ones that really drew me in, and Sting in WCW. But the setup, he might as well literally scream to his opponent, "Hey, I'm about to hit
Look
my
out!
finisher.
Might wanna
You might
duck."
want to duck."
Well, it's like the same way with Orton when he like does
Right.
like throws
Right.
his tantrum on the
Or
ground.
Roman Reigns punching the mat
Yeah.
and doing his
Yeah.
roar thing. It's just like,
Or
I
Edge,
get
like,
it.
bouncing his butt off the trombone.
Yeah,
pole.
and
they know what's coming.
I get it. You know, I get that that's just part of it. But
Yeah.
to me, that takes away from
Yeah.
the credibility of
Exactly,
your opponent.
that's true. Yeah.
Because, like, is your opponent really
But-
stupid enough to believe
yeah.
that you're not coming with the
In the
finisher?
defense of that, my favorite super kicks were always the ones that he didn't do the setup for. When it would just be like, psh, Oh,
like
he just hits
the
it.
one on Sheldon Benjamin
That
jumping
will
off the
always
ropes.
be
That's probably the best
I-
one.
like,
Well, and that's how it should have always been done.
Yeah, and he did plenty of times end it with the setup, but I feel like a lot of times in the big matches, the setup didn't usually work out for him as well as just hitting it.
I know a lot of times with the setup, like they would move out of the way.
Yeah, or catch the leg.
Yeah.
Like if it were Kurt Angle, he'd always right into the ankle lock so many times. But, and a lot of times after he'd hit it, he'd just fall down and lay down for like a minute.
Should you listen to Ringside Radio? Let's ask WWE superstar Daniel Bryan.
Yes! 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 Yes!
Right now, looking at the roster, we've got a lot of people there. But a handful of them are older talents who are kind of just sitting there. So my question is it time for them to finally step away? And I'm not talking about like John Cena or Randy Orton or something like that. I'm talking about like Mark Henry, The Big Show,
Oh, I feel you.
Kane, even Chris Jericho,
RVD.
RVD. What do you guys think? Do you feel like when you're watching Raw, I mean, for the most part, they can still put on good matches. I still think anytime RVD is on TV, it's good,
Yeah.
a good match. Pretty much anytime Jericho's on TV, it's a good match. But, I mean, do they need to be there? Are they really doing that much for the talent? Other than it's just awesome to see them.
Yeah. Honestly, some of them I'm okay with. Like Jericho, he comes back and he comes back to put new talent over. And I'm not saying Big Show and them don't do that either. But
They do it a lot less.
yeah.
Whether it's...
Like Jericho has said numerous times, whether it's interviews or his podcast or whatever, that he comes back to put the new talent over.
Yeah.
So, like, I'm kind of either or with it. Like, I would like to see them move out that way. They can give some of the younger guys more
Yes.
time, but I'm okay with it too because if they are putting the younger guys over, then I'm okay with that because I don't want to see like Jericho leave because he's one of my favorite
yeah,
wrestlers.
I know it. I know.
But-
it's just, eventually, the time has to come.
Yeah,
And I
eventually
feel
he
like
will
for some of these
retire.
guys, the main person that comes to mind, and he was definitely in like my top 10 favorites of all time, is Kane. Mm-hmm. The more and more when he wrestles, makes me sad.
Well, and it's not how you want to remember him before
For example,
he left.
one of our friends, Kristen, has just started getting into wrestling, and she can't stand Kane because of his character he's portraying. You're not supposed to like him, and she just can't understand how anyone would have liked him at one point. And it's just like you're seeing him at a time. This isn't Kane. You know what I mean?
Right. Not
The closest
even
thing,
close.
the closest thing to the old school Kane we've gotten recently was that match at Extreme Rules with Bryan.
That was very cool because that was a really good match. It's just, it's one of those things where I like him. I respect everything he's done.
And I'm okay with him like doing like the whole corporate thing.
Yeah, that kind of works.
Because that's honestly him. He's a very political corporate guy.
But he still
it's-
can't just do that because he's still wrestling.
Yeah,
he's still taking a spot up for that
I
somebody else.
think
could
if he's
have.
doing the corporate thing, it shouldn't be on TV. It should be like a behind the scenes thing. And I think when he does officially retire, he's going to be that guy, or he's going to be that guy who they put in charge of Raw, like making the GM or whatever. But
Well, and that's cool because then he's not, you know, like Grim said, he's not taking that spot that somebody else should have.
Yeah. So honestly,
like
my weighing in on the situation is I'm ready for
I am
he's-
too.
the last of the Attitude Era guys that just kind of go because
Yeah, because
It's really a double-edged sword because I'm sitting over here pondering the question going, you know, yeah, there are so many up-and-coming guys that we love.
Yeah.
And we can't wait to see what they can do and what heights they can reach in WWE. But there's that part of me that was 12 years old watching Kane.
yeah,
That was 12 years old when Chris Jericho debuted in WWE. And it's just strange to think that they wouldn't be there anymore.
yeah.
But, you know, things do have to progress.
And see, with Jericho, I feel like it's a little easier because he's always he leaves for a couple months to go on tour, with
Right,
his
and
band
he-
stuff, so he's not there a whole lot.
And he
but-
cares so much about
Yeah.
WWE. But he cares so much about his band too. So it's like he
Yeah.
really does pour his heart into what he
Whatever he's
does.
doing at the
And
time.
that's and his podcast and all those things are so respectable So I would never have a problem when Jericho keeps coming back as long as he is contributing. Now, I do have to say Jericho and Bray Wyatt's feud did not do for me what I thought it would.
No, I have to completely
I
agree.
felt excited, and then I was like, darn.
It was... in it.
It just didn't. For some reason,
I don't think the
didn't.
chemistry was there.
No, I don't think so either.
I agree. Like, it just doesn't... Like, Jericho seems to be on this guy. He's got good chemistry with everyone.
Yeah.
No matter who he's in
You
the
see it on
ring with,
paper, Jericho, Bray Wyatt, and you're just like, oh, this is gonna be sweet. The war of words is going to be, like, phenomenal. And their matches are going to be amazing. And I think it was... didn't live up to the hype I had it in my head.
And I think that's what it was. We all had a huge spot for it. We all thought it was going to be the match of the night. One of the best feuds that was going on. But
honestly, for SummerSlam, it was...
one of the
that
fewer,
I wasn't as excited
one of the lesser.
about, you know?
So, okay, before we move on from this, we're talking about kind of the older guys or the guys who have been around longer.
Yeah.
And this made me think of the main event on Raw this past Monday, the thing that was Cena versus Bray and then turned into the 6-man tag. Okay, so I saw and we have a page where we and our friends interact about wrestling-related things. And I think it was yesterday, or Tuesday, I guess. That was yesterday. Sorry. I thought it was Thursday. But I saw posted, there was like an outcry against the main event. And I didn't comment because... And then when you said about the podcast, Grim, I was like, sweet, because I really want to bring this up.
Okay.
What was it about the main event? And I don't care. It's okay. I just want to know.
Okay, I'll go. Here's for me, mainly because the Wyatt family was one of my favorite parts of Raw on a weekly basis, and lately they've just kind of been on a decline, and I felt like that was just a nail in the coffin for them or something to buy them as legitimate, legitimate competitors for anything. Big Show and Mark Henry have been just beating them for the past 2 weeks. And now they do it again.
For no reason, because they're not even a tag team.
Here's the thing. I understand what they did with Cena, basically having him recreate what Lesnar did to him. I thought that was good storytelling.
Right.
I just wish it wasn't to Bray.
It was to somebody else. Yep.
This is somebody who Cena feuded with months ago, who was viewed as a legitimate main event guy, a threat to Cena. Cena said, I fear Bray.
Right.
He's a legitimate threat.
Yep.
My thing is, I understand they needed to do that because Cena's going to fight Lesnar. He needs to look changed and different, and like he stands a chance. It crushed me that it was to Bray.
Yeah.
And that it was the Wyatts just basically buried, as people say. I'm not saying they're completely screwed or anything. It just didn't look good at all, in my opinion. So that's my gripe with the main event, was just made the Wyatts look terrible.
Mm-hmm. And I'm not going to lie, I don't have much of an opinion on it because I kind of just fast forward through it because everything I was reading like online or from talking to Graham or Chris or whoever, everyone pretty much, it seemed like everyone's had a consensus that it wasn't a good main event and that all that happened was, like Grim said, the Wyatts got buried. So I didn't really watch it. I kind of just watched it through like fast forward on the DVR and I knew it was going to turn into like the big triple threat, and I just really, I don't really like seeing Mark Henry and Big Show team. It just doesn't, to me, it doesn't make sense. Like, I get
it's not too exciting.
Yeah, like I get they're both big guys, so they're like a tough team to beat or whatever. But it's, I don't know, it's just not very exciting, and it's like what Graham said. Like, the Wyatts have just been being beat over and over and over again. They haven't been very legitimate for a while. So
yeah, I just remember seeing, and Bray, as difficult as that must have been for him, because the way we feel, imagine how he felt, and to see the way he still put over everything Cena did. And I've always liked Bray as a character and as a talent. But I just remember feeling so much respect for him. Like, here, something's going on that should not be happening to him. And like you said earlier, that we need to be doing the storytelling with Cena, because Lesnar's not there to do it.
Yeah.
It has to happen somewhere. But it shouldn't have been to Bray. And I just remember watching him sell things and saying, man, you know what? Like, I have so much respect for the way he is making, because Cena doesn't need to look good, but for this he does.
Yeah.
It should have been somebody else. I agree with that 100%. But I really do respect Bray for, the way he did it, the way he conducted himself. Because somebody like Shawn Michaels, but somebody like Shawn Michaels would try to make it look as horrible as he could because
he did that.
And he did.
Yeah.
And that's what I think of. And then, and Bray's such a young guy. Bray's actually younger than me, which is completely insane to me. But just to see a young guy have, like, that much respect for the business he's in, I had a lot of, he got a lot of respect from me just seeing that happen.
Yeah, that is a good point. I didn't really think about it like that.
So that's a plus that I took away from it, was I felt really good about Bray and the future of WWE in the hands of people like Bray Wyatt. Yeah. I felt really good about that. I really did.
That is a positive.
I took that away. Like, I really took that away from it. So that's kind of why I wanted to talk about it here, because I was like, I'm not going to post, because I want to talk about this and see,
Well, that's true.
Yeah.
Because I felt like that was a positive.
Yeah, which it is.
And I don't like that it turned into a 6-man tag.
Yeah.
Because...
Like, why?
Well, and Big Show and Mark Henry don't need anything at all.
No.
They're not even an actual tag team.
No.
They're just...
Mark
there was
Henry
no
has
reason
just
to put
recently
them in
come
it,
back. They're way past their prime.
Yeah.
And so I feel like, Big Show and Mark Henry were put over when they didn't need it.
Yeah.
The Wyatts and all the Wyatts looked bad when none of them deserved to.
No, each one of them, yeah.
The Rock has gotta know. What is your favorite podcast?
Well, I guess my favorite podcast would probably...
It doesn't matter what your favorite podcast is, because The Rock's favorite podcast is Ringside Radio.
Can we talk about how good both Ambrose and Rollins are doing at their respective roles? So good. Rollins is actually getting booed.
Yeah.
And
like, I never imagined
he's
him
a
being
heel
booed.
who is awesome, and he's so good that he's actually getting booed as a heel.
Like,
And that
him.
doesn't happen anymore.
I know.
People
people
love
like
him.
people are like, I love him. Bray, people cheer Bray because he's cool.
okay.
Rollins is getting booed. That's awesome.
And I have this obnoxiously strange perspective on Rollins because I used to watch him as an indie guy, so I've watched him since he was basically a baby in wrestling, like he was 19. So obviously everything he does, I'm like so proud and so excited. Yeah. But like, and here's another well-kept secret of mine. I'm not the biggest fan of Roman Reigns. I do not dislike him. I think he deserves to be there. I think he's talented, but he really doesn't do as much for me as he does for so many other fans.
Yeah.
So Rollins, I like love. To me, everything he touches turns to gold.
Yeah.
Because I think he's the greatest ever.
He has the golden briefcase.
And Reigns doesn't really excite me. But when Reigns comes out and clobbers Rollins, I get excited.
Yeah.
That is such a testament to what Rollins can do as a heel.
Yeah.
I laugh. I like jump up. And that's my guy getting clobbered by the guy I don't like that much.
That's saying something.
But it really does. Like, it gets me excited. I enjoy watching him get clobbered because he's so good at playing that role. You want to see him get killed.
He's great.
You want to see somebody knock him off that post.
It's like when Edge would be his Weasley self, and then he'd get destroyed, and it was hilarious.
And whether you liked Edge or not, it was delightful watching him.
Everyone loved seeing Edge get destroyed, whether it was by the Undertaker or Cena or Batista or whoever it was. Everybody loved it.
So satisfying.
Yeah, it's like
and
that. It's a
Rollins
Weasley heel. They finally get what they deserve.
Right.
They've got something so good with him and the positions, the roles they gave him are
and Ambrose they do too. My gosh. I don't know who was behind signing them, but like I don't know who exactly.
Yeah.
But my gosh, I bet now they're like, wow.
Good thing we did that.
Because even though they're good, they have like untapped potential.
It's just mind.
It's insane.
Like, don't get me wrong. Here's the way I see it. Reigns is being what people are saying, like, groomed. Like, he's obviously going to be, the guy or whatever. But you've got Rollins and Ambrose over here. They're doing it on their own. I mean, they're given the spot, like, oh, well, here's your match, do this and stuff.
Right.
But Ambrose, as the face, who I never imagined
Yeah,
would be
no.
the face in this.
No.
It's completely
And
reversed.
now,
how
right
I
now, I'm
pictured
like,
it.
he's going to be a heel eventually, but please not anytime soon. I'm loving
Right.
cheering him. He's
Mm-hmm.
just a badass, like...
Well, he's a loose cannon.
Yes.
It reminds me of Brian Pillman.
Yeah.
I used to watch, and Brian Pillman like pulled a gun on TV once,
Yeah.
and they cut the feed, and I
can
know,
see Ambrose
I know that was
doing
predetermined. But when I see Ambrose go crazy,
I don't see Ambrose pulling a gun, but I see him doing some crazy,
like a
like...
knife or something.
Yeah, I see him doing something that I'm like, oh, we need to stop this. Like,
but
we
I
need to
think
cut this
so
feed.
much of Ambrose when or I think of Brian Pillman
Yeah.
when I see Ambrose because he is that role. Except, and this is no disrespect to Brian Pillman, he's better.
Yeah.
He is so. There's so much to
You're
him.
not sure what he's gonna do.
Yeah, he's...
And he's another one of those guys. When he loses, he doesn't look bad.
No.
Because to him, it doesn't matter whether he wins or loses.
Well,
he
and
loses himself sometimes
Yeah.
just by getting...
Exactly.
He's like,
He gets himself
I'm getting
DQ'd.
pissed. I'm going to hit you with a chair.
And it, like, usually that's a heel thing to do, but
the
it
crowd's
works for
like,
him as a face, because
yeah.
it's like what Katrina said. He is a loose cannon, and that's just
He's
the way
insane,
he
and
is.
everybody likes
It's so
that.
cool. He's literally just like a cool guy
Yeah.
to like. It's
Well,
like,
and even his sloppy in-ring work, it's sloppy
It
because
fits.
that's his thing.
Yeah.
You know, and I think it's Michael Cole describes it as chaotic.
Yeah.
I couldn't come up with a better way to
Yeah.
describe it. Michael Cole drives me up a wall, but it's
yeah.
chaotic.
Sometimes he can do stuff.
Sometimes
right.
he has his moments.
Yeah, but yeah, it's just...
But, and speaking of this whole, like, the whole Rollins
Yeah.
and Ambrose feud, I never pictured Rollins being the one in the suit and tie.
Yeah.
Because he does not seem like a suit and tie guy to me. He just
Yeah.
seems like he's going to be
Well,
that guy
but tell me
who walks
now.
out in jeans, a t-shirt,
Is he
and
doing
Converse.
it?
Yeah.
He is.
I honestly,
He is
I feel like
he
you
is
could
nailing
go
it.
back.
He's perfect for
I feel
it.
like you go back and listen to a podcast of ours from any time between when we started last October and April or May, and we would have said anytime we've talked about. We had a specific topic one time about when the Shield splits. I'm almost positive we said things along the lines of, "Well, Rollins is going to be the big baby face. You know, everybody will
Yeah.
love him because he's just so awesome. Ambrose, definite heel. I can't see him as anything but a heel and all this stuff." And then Reigns, I remember saying like, "Well, he could just do whatever." I guess
He could be
but
either one.
look at it now. It's completely backwards and
Reigns
it's perfect.
they're putting Reigns as a big baby face. Rollins is probably the biggest heel in the company right now.
Well, 'cause you've got him aligned with the Authority. You always have Kane helping him with his matches. You
Well,
got-
and nobody, like, people get disturbed by a suit, so to
Yeah.
speak. Someone who is
It's that authority
basically
figure.
someone who's a yes man.
yeah,
You
someone
know,
who's sold out and
corporate America,
definitely
that's
sold out.
that's such a corporate America thing. People who will, kiss whatever butts they have to kiss to get to the top.
Yeah.
And so people take that so personally because it's something that anybody who is basically employed anywhere can relate to.
Yeah,
Yep.
they
So
just
it's
hate-
something that gets taken so personally. So
Yeah.
if you put someone in there and have them go corporate, oh my gosh, people
Yeah,
are going
that's
to
a
get
way to
mad.
definitely
But
get you.
Rollins does it so well that, people who love him
Yeah.
love to see him get killed.
Yeah. And the big part of it too is they built the Shield up so much. Like they were like almost like the Lesnar how
Of
is
the
how he
teams
is
that
now.
they
there
were.
was no one who they took on the entire tag team division by themselves and won
Yeah.
and destroyed them all.
You make a good point. They
And-
couldn't go anywhere else.
Yeah, and everyone loved him. They were so over. They're probably the most over superstars on the roster. And then Rollins stabbed his brothers in the back.
Well, and I remember like
And everyone was so shocked by it. No one saw
exactly
it coming.
because he's the last one I would have
Yeah,
said was
same
going to
here.
do it.
Yep.
The last one.
See, I pictured Reigns maybe doing it because he's like, well, I want my own.
I thought for sure Reigns was
I
joining
like
the Authority.
Yeah,
Or
like
Evolution.
Like
is
not
what
even
I-
necessarily the Authority. I just pictured him like attacking, like the other two because he wanted to do his own. He's gonna say like they're holding him back or whatever. He wants the big title, but Rollins was the one who did. Like no one was expecting it, and whoever thought of the storyline and whoever thought of doing it, they nailed it.
Yeah.
It's so exciting and refreshing to know because we sit around and we talk about wrestling and I consider us like well knowledgeable people on
Yeah.
wrestling because we've watched long enough and we know what's going to be good, what's going to work, what's not going to work. So to me it's so refreshing to know that element of surprise can still be there even for people
Yeah.
who are like who have watched forever. Who have watched for more than
Yeah.
half their lives.
I feel like that's when you know they're doing something right.
Yeah.
Yeah.
It's all about the money. It's all about the money.
Kind of how we were talking about the roster and everything earlier. Do you think that the WWE altogether, I'm including NXT and people who haven't debuted yet, like Steen and all them, do you think this is like the strongest that the WWE's overall roster has looked almost ever? Because when you look at it, it's insane.
I'd say yes, just because, like, all of them are, like, everyone who they're signing, everyone in NXT and the people who are building their way up to be the main eventers, they're all the best wrestlers
in the world.
And they're not only just good, they're not only good on, like, as in the ring, but they're good on the mic. They're good at building story. They have the emotion, and they have everything. They are literally signing the best people in the world right now. So I'm super excited for the future of the company.
Yeah.
And, like, for, like, Steen and David and Kenta, I've never really seen any of their in-ring work or anything they've really done, but I've never heard anyone say, "Oh, I don't like them," or "Oh, they're bad." And
Or like
I've never heard
bad signing.
I've never heard anything bad said about them, and I've seen more of the Prince Devitt stuff just because of seeing pictures of some, like, the costumes he's always done, and they were awesome.
Yeah.
So, like, I've never really seen any of their in-ring work, but I've never heard anyone say anything bad about them. I mean, you usually have that one person who's like, "Oh, they suck, I hate them, blah, blah, blah," but...
Probably haven't seen them.
Yeah, browsing through, like, Reddit or whatever the website is, I've never heard anyone say anything bad about them.
Yeah.
Do you know what I really like is that I think there's almost like a new movement. I think Triple H has finally, like, gotten the concept of, because, like, I've always heard it said that, you know, Vince looks for a certain, like, Vince wants you to look a certain way.
Yeah.
John Cena, basically.
Yeah.
That's what he looks for. And if you're not built like that, you're probably a sideshow.
Yeah.
You know? And so I'm excited about like the fact that Kevin Steen is going to be on the roster, because Kevin Steen does not look like a guy that Vince McMahon would sign.
Yeah.
So, and to me that's exciting, because Kevin Steen is not going to be the big show. He's not going to be the world's strongest man. You know, he's going to be a legitimate wrestler.
Yeah.
Not a guy who is there because he's big or because he was a power lifter in the Olympics or quote unquote Andre the Giant's son.
Yeah.
Kevin Steen is going to be Kevin Steen or whatever silly name they give him. But he's going to be Kevin Steen, the wrestler, who's also a big dude.
Yeah, he's...
And, like, I'm excited about that.
Yeah, that's awesome.
You know, and Devitt and Kenta, again, and I don't know a whole lot about... I've heard of both of them. You know, Steen I've actually seen wrestle once when I went to a Ring of Honor show. And got to meet him and stuff. So, that'll be a cool story for a later date. But, you know, because nobody was there. Everybody wanted to go talk to the Briscoes, and I'm like, I'm going to go talk to Kevin Steen because nobody's over there.
Yeah.
And he's like, hey, thanks for coming over. You know, and now I'm like, haha, people who didn't come over. You know, because he didn't charge for anything. I think I got my mom an autograph, and I got a picture with him, and he didn't charge me nothing. So... It doesn't get much better than that, you know. Cool guy, and he's gonna be Kevin Steen, who's a great wrestler and a big dude.
Yeah.
He's not gonna be Kevin Steen the sideshow. So, like, I think that's exciting.
And
I think that's so cool. It's like a new movement.
Is behind these guys. He's gonna make sure they've got a good place, because he's behind the reason they're signed. You know, that's just.
And I do think overall wrestlers should look at least to a point. You know, you have to look believable.
Yeah.
But like, as soon as Kevin Steen's in the ring, like his in-ring work's gonna speak for itself. So
I was actually thinking that earlier, like what you were saying about how Vince has he has that look he looks for. He wants the big muscular guys like Batista or Big Show or whatever. And I was gonna ask you guys like what you thought about how like all these newer guys, they're not small by any means, but they're not the big muscular ripped guys. They're kind of average sized guys who just happen to be really strong. I like. The
I think it's
transformation, how, like,
I think it's finally more about the talent pool, like how good you are than, because if you look at the 80s wrestling, like those guys were, for the most part, they were not in great shape, unless you're talking about like Rick Rude, you know, or the Ultimate Warrior or something like that. They were more like bigger, fluffier guys, but like they had character, you know. They had people believed in them.
Yeah.
Whether
They're
they liked them
charismatic.
or hated them, they had charisma and they had gimmicks, and I almost feel like we've kind of come full circle, because there was that, and then there was, you know, and then there was, like, I guess the Vince McMahon only looking for a certain type, which there were other guys like Shawn and Brett who were smaller guys who were in there and were very successful. So I think now we're at a point where it's like, you know what? You know, if you're a good wrestler, if you're a really good wrestler and you can sell the product, we want you. And that is how it should be.
Yeah, it's like, so
It's kind
I
of like it.
love the fact that it's more about the wrestling, what you can do. Like, look is part of it, but it's not so much size look. It's just maybe look in general. I don't think it's so much about, oh, you're a big beefy dude and all that stuff. Because when you look at the guys, I mean, we were just talking about Seth Rollins and Dean Ambrose, Sami Zayn, Adrian Neville, Ken Todd, Prince Devitt, and Kevin Steen, who've all just been signed. It's like, it's more about, and friggin' Daniel Bryan, you know? I feel like, honestly, CM Punk is a big reason behind that.
Yeah.
He, and just from watching this documentary and stuff, I mean, like, he kind of paved the way for that indie, smaller, you know.
Yeah, he really
more-
did.
He, if anything else, he did do that through his self-proclaimed revolution, all that stuff that he wanted to change and stuff. I think he did do that.
Yeah,
that
'cause
that happened.
you can always tell like what guys been signed, because they were the big guys like the Great Khali. He's a big monster that is intimidating. Not so much anymore, but back then he kind of was. And then there was like
No, he was.
and there was
Yeah,
Batista
he was back
and
in the
Umaga.
day.
Not taking anything away from Umaga or Batista, because they're both good wrestlers.
Yeah.
But like those were the guys like Vince looked for. He looked for this big, muscular, ripped out of their mind guys.
And not just completely huge, but I mean just like the physique of like, you know, maybe like a Chris Masters or something.
Or even
like,
a David Otunga or whatever.
yeah, they're just good physique. They don't
Yeah.
have to be like huge guys, but they're ripped.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's more about, like you said, the talent. It's
I
about-
still remember Colt Cabana saying on a podcast, "I'm sorry, I don't have a six-pack. I like Reese's Pieces, Vince."
Yeah.
He said Reese's Pieces and Mike and Ike's, and then that year, his Hanukkah gift from me was 8 boxes of Mike and Ike's all taped together. It was funny watching him try to open them so he could eat them.
I'm sure he loved it too.
Yeah, he did.
Yeah, that's vintage Colt Cabana.
It really, I mean, but really, that's kind of the point. You know, that's kind of what we're saying. That's the
Yeah.
basis of what we're saying is, you know, you shouldn't have to look a certain
Yeah.
way
Yeah.
in order to have credibility as a wrestler. If you're good, you're good.
You're listening to Ringside Radio, invented by Chris Jericho.
Okay, it's random superstar time.
Dun dun
Let's see who we
dun.
got. Number 76, Mr. Kennedy. Kennedy. So yeah, Mr. Kennedy. Or Mr. Anderson, apparently.
In
some circles.
Yeah.
Well, I'll start this off, I guess. I remember back in like 2006, 7, I was into wrestling, but I was a mark. I did what they wanted. You know, I liked who they liked for the most, who I was supposed to like. I liked the good guys, but I didn't like the bad guys because they were bad guys, you know? But I remember one of the first people who was a bad guy who I liked for some reason was Mr. Kennedy. For one reason or another, I just thought he was awesome. He was a loudmouth and he was annoying, but it made him stand out big time. I loved the microphone thing coming down from the, you know, he'd hold up his hand and the microphone would fall down. I liked his in-ring work. for some reason, he was one of the first bad guys who I was like, I like this guy. And then from then on, I started realizing you can actually like the bad guys because they're good at what they're doing. But I just remember he was one in like 2007 who I was like, this guy's awesome. And we talked about this before, that he was destined for greatness.
Yeah.
Or he was going to do great things, and it all just kind of... He had a bad year, won Money in the Bank, got hurt, lost his world title opportunity, came back and just didn't really do much after that. Held the U.S. title for a short amount of time. That was really about it. But I think he's found a lot more success in TNA, but I don't really watch him in it, so I don't know. But he'll always be Mr. Kennedy to me, not Mr. Anderson.
Yeah.
Will never change.
I'm kind of on the same boat as Grim. I mean, there had always been like a few bad guys like when I was younger that I'd liked, but I think that was mostly because like I'd watch it with my brother and he really liked them, so I kind of just got on board because John likes him, so I might as well like him too. But he was definitely one of those guys who you loved watching him, but you hated him at the same time. And yeah, I'd always liked him, and I remember I was watching TNA one day and they said something about Mr. Anderson. I'm like, who are they talking about? And then he came out, I'm like, no, that's Mr. Kennedy. I think you're mistaken. But, yeah, from what I've seen and, like, read and stuff, it seems like he's one of their top guys, so it seems like he has more success over there. Yeah. And it sucks because they definitely did see something in him because they gave him a lot of opportunities, but he kept either getting hurt or something would come up or...
His timing was just...
Yeah, he had bad timing. Yep. Trina, what do you think of Mr. Kennedy?
Oh, I think he was really entertaining. I think a lot of people liked to imitate him, his big Mr. Kennedy yell thing. I know I did.
Oh, I remember we all used to do it.
Yeah, and I was like... I was probably even more annoying than he was, which is saying a lot. But...
not surprising, though.
His... I really liked what he did in the ring, but I think the coolest thing he ever did was destroying Hornswoggle off the ladder at Money in the Bank, and our friend cried because of it.
You
and it
can't
was just
do
great.
that! He's gonna kill him!
He's dead, guys! He's dead!
I wasn't there watching it with you guys, but I remember... Like, you guys talking about it, like, youth group or something.
That's still one of our favorite stories.
Yeah,
that was his big moment.
You guys talking about it at youth group, and
then,
we're all dying laughing. And the kid who did it was just sitting in their corner, just like, you guys are... It's not funny.
What's so ironic is that, Kennedy destroyed Hornswoggle at Money in the Bank, and then Hornswoggle ended up taking that spot that Kennedy was supposed to have. Because from what I understand, Kennedy was supposed to be the mysterious Vince McMahon's son, because of his last name is Vince's middle name, and they were going to tie that in, and then they, I think that was during the time when he was hurt and couldn't be around, and then they ended up pulling Hornswoggle out of a hat on that one. So it's kind of funny that exactly. It's funny that Kennedy destroyed him.
Yeah.
It's just ironic to me.
It is.
And then Hornswoggle ended up in that spot.
I think the reasoning why Hornswoggle wanted in that spot, like, well, since we can't do for a good storyline, since the person who we wanted is injured or whatever, like, we'll go for more of a comedic approach to it.
Right. Well, and that's irrelevant. Yeah. I just wanted to point out the irony. But I did, I always enjoyed him. And a very unique thing that I will say is, my friend Heather had a signing and had him there, and I'd never seen this before, and I've never seen it since. With Kennedy, every woman that came up to the table, he stood up for them. Every single woman, and that's really weird, but like, I've never seen that before or since. Every female that came to the table, he would stand up, shake their hand, take their picture, sign his autograph, and then sit back down. So when there were like 10 in a row, he was probably like, damn it. But I remember looking at my mom and I'm like, dude, because she was there with me, I'm like, dude, he's standing up for every chick. And he did every time. So
there you go, ladies. Chivalry
but
is
the
not
guys,
bad.
but seriously, the guys, he would stay seated at the table and they could come behind the table and stand by him for the picture. But for the ladies, he always stood up. So I was like, wow. It was just cool.
Yeah.
Chivalry's not dead.
I guess not. Thanks, Mr. Kennedy.
By God, this is the best damn podcast I've ever heard in my life, King.
Well, thank you, everybody, for listening to this episode of Ringside Radio. We had a blast. It was a good time. We will try and do one of these sooner, so we
not wait so long.
Won't have so much to talk about, even though it's good to have stuff to talk about. But yeah, if you've enjoyed this, share it along, because we'd love to have more listeners. We'd love to hear from you. Keep listening to Ringside Radio. I'm Grim Chorizo.
I'm Floppy Joe.
And I'm Katrina Cena.
And we'll see you next month.